So we don't have any slides today. This is our last lesson for World War II and Heritage Studies. So we're going to be in your book on page 284. Now I'm going to read through the last, I think it's like the last 4 pages of the chapter. And then we have a work text page that we're going to kind of work on ourselves. We're going to kind of go through it a little bit quickly. I don't like to take a whole lot of time for it because then we lose our train of thought. Now, tomorrow on your for your lesson, you won't have a video. I do have a virtual field trip on Google Classroom for tomorrow for you to take. Now, I took that field trip myself this morning. It's online, so your Nana would need to look at it and see what she thinks about it. And it took me probably just over an hour. Now, it might not interest you that much, but to me, it brought me to tears. It was wonderful. It was about a lady named Corrie ten Boom who lived in Holland that was occupied by Germany during this time. And she and her family hid the Jewish people illegally. They weren't supposed to, but they did. And she actually was put in one of the concentration camps, and her sister died. Okay, there's that fly. Oh, get that fly. Oh, I hate flies. Okay. I know that's not very professional, but I'm sorry. Okay, so let's look at page 284. At the very top, it says the aftermath, the world after the war. Now you read along with me. Even after the war ended, the United States had much work to do. Many nations had suffered from fighting. Millions of people had died. Americans wanted to rebuild the world, and few knew all the problems they would find. The worst news for most Americans was learning about the Holocaust. Americans knew that Adolf Hitler was a dictator. They knew that he thought Germanic people were the best. And after the war, Americans discovered how much evil Hitler had done. In order to make Germany how he wanted it, Hitler had tried to kill everyone he thought was not good enough. Most of all, he hated the Jews. Hitler killed about 6 million European Jews. He had them rounded up, shipped in railway cars like animals, and then killed. Some were left alive, but were enslaved in Hitler's factories. This murder of Jews and other people is remembered as the Holocaust. Many people had tried to rescue the Jews. In the Netherlands, a courageous woman named Corrie ten Boom and her family hid Jews in their house. Eventually, the Nazis captured the ten Booms. Even then, the ten Booms didn't tell about the Jewish people hidden in their house. After the war, many Jewish people left Europe. They moved to the land in the Middle East that had been Israel. They reestablished the country in 1948. President Truman encouraged the Jews to set up their own state. Americans also learned of the destruction of Europe and Japan. In order to defeat the Axis powers, the Allies had bombed cities and factories. Many people had no place to work or live. Countries like Germany and Japan also needed to start new governments. There's a picture at the bottom of page 285 of a city in Germany after a bombing. There was just nothing left of it. Look at page 286. The United States wanted to help these countries. American bombs had caused much of the damage. Now American money would rebuild. The United States wanted the world to be filled with healthy countries. The United States sent money and advisors to help countries rebuild. In Europe, the Americans set up the Marshall Plan to help rebuild industry. By the early 1950s, Western Europe had recovered from much of the physical destruction of the war. But not all of Europe shared in the recovery. Once the fighting of World War II ended, a new type of war began. Joseph Stalin still controlled the USSR. His armies controlled many countries in Eastern Europe. These countries had little freedom. Stalin refused to let them receive American help. Soon he cut them off altogether from Western countries. Winston Churchill said that an Iron Curtain had cut Europe in half. For the next 45 years, the United States fought to prevent communism from spreading. In 1945, few Americans thought about problems with Russia. Instead, they celebrated the victory against Germany and Japan. American soldiers flooded home. They left the military, got jobs, got married, and bought houses. Although the world did not have complete peace, Americans began to return to normal life. All right, so that concludes our lesson about World War II. So let's go ahead and work on our work text page. This is going to be on work text page 128, if you'll turn to that. Okay. So basically 1 through 6 at the top, we need to complete each sentence. Number 1, the murder of Jews and other people is remembered as the blank. The answer is going to be on page 284 at the bottom of those pictures, right underneath the pictures. It's the Holocaust. So you'll pause it and write that word Holocaust on number 1. Number 2, Hitler killed about 6 blank European Jews. How many? Remember, 6 million. It's in that on that same page, 284. Million. So you'll write million on number 2. M-I-L-L-I-O-N. Million. It's a lot of Jews, a lot of people. Number 3, Corrie ten Boom and her family hid blank in their house. Jews. Number 3 is Jews, J-E-W-S. Number 4, in 1948, the Jewish people set up their own state called Israel. I-S-R-A-E-L. Israel. Number 5, after the war, Germany and Japan needed to start new, remember? Governments. They needed to start new governments. That's the answer on number 5. It's G-O-V-E-R-N-M-E-N-T-S. Governments. Number 6. The blank wanted to help countries where American bombs had caused much of the damage. Who wanted to help countries that had bombed them before? The U.S. There's that fly. Ooh. I hate flies. And they always just fly around me like they know what they're doing. Number 6 is U.S. Okay, 7 through 13, we have to write, if it's true, we write true. If it's false, then we have to write the correct word that's underlined. Number 7, to help rebuild industry in Europe, the United States set up the Allied Plan. That's not true. It's the Marshall Plan. Look at page 286. At the top, you'll see that man's picture. And look right to the right of his name, of his picture. It was the Marshall Plan. So that goes on number 7. Number 8. Western Europe had recovered from much of the war's physical destruction by the early 1970s. Not 1970s, it'd be 1950s. Number 8 is 1950s. Number 9, once the fighting of World War II ended, a new type of war began. True. Remember, it was with Joseph Stalin, and he was trying to get communism to grow. So that's true. Number 9 is true. Number 10, Joseph Stalin still controlled many countries in Eastern Asia. Not Asia, Europe. E-U-R-O-P-E. Oh gosh, the fly. E-U-R-O-P-E, Europe. Number 11, the leader who said that an Iron Curtain had cut Europe in half was General Eisenhower. Who was it? It was Winston Churchill. If you want to know how to spell his name, it's a little bit longer. You'll have to look on page 286 at the very bottom. See where it says Iron Curtain? It's bold Iron Curtain. Look at the line up from that and over to the right. Winston Churchill said that. Okay, number 12. The United States fought to prevent communism from spreading. True. That is true. Okay, number 13. As Americans celebrated the victory against Germany and Japan, few thought about problems with Russia. True. All right. That will be it then. So you don't have any assignment today in your heritage studies. So tomorrow you'll have your virtual field trip and your chapter review, and then Friday or Thursday you'll have your test, okay? All right, that's all for today.